What's going on, everybody? You've got the card board coach here with your boy, Coach Co and team. Today, we got a very special guest on a podcast here today. We've got Dave Stapleton, a.k.a. Stapes Breaks on TikTok. How you doing today?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good. I probably shouldn't have said just TikTok, but that's where you mainly break out of, correct?
Yeah, TikTok. I've dabbled into whatnot, but TikTok is where we call home.
Cool.
Hmm.
Before we get into the TikTok breaks and your breaking in general, the reason why we have you on today, aside from the fact that you're a pretty cool guy, is there has been a lot of publicity, and we will talk about whether there was enough publicity, but
Hmm.
David Adams dropped a $200,000 bounty. You heard that correct? On the Dylan Cruz one of one superfractor in 2024 Bowman. You were I want to say lucky, but again, we can talk about that too. You were the lucky breaker to pull that for one of your customers. The bounty just went through today. So the customer accepted the bounty. The card is now with David Adams. So it's kind of fitting that we have you on today.
Hmm.
And I think myself and everybody else want to know, how did that feel?
A lot of people have asked that, and amazing. Like dreams come true, but also so satisfying and impressionable. I don't think I've had an opportunity, and I don't know if I will during my lifetime to financially change somebody's life
You
like
literally
we
changed
just
someone's
did.
life, man.
Oh, like it was unbelievable. So yeah, it did. I mean, 100%. And we talked on the phone, after the break, and just the things that I still I getting like the goosebumps right now. Cause like he says, Stapes, like 3 weeks ago, my Jeep was sitting in my driveway and my neighbor calls me and says, your Jeep is on fire. And I was sitting there listening. I'm like, what? Like his just some electrical problem. The Jeep went up. He sent me some pictures of it. It was melted. Like it was like a candle just gone down to the very bottom. Like it was unbelievable. And then a week later, he has a baby. And like, and then a week after that, he hits a $200,000 baseball card. So maybe things happen for reasons, but like in that time of his life, like that money is needed. And he was so appreciative of it. Like you could tell through his voice, he was in shock. Like I was in shock. His wife didn't believe him. Uh, it was really cool to be a part of. So yeah,
His
life changing.
his wife is probably a believer in sports cards forever now.
Yeah, I think so. I hope so. I hope so. So
I
I know.
love that. Um, oh, there's so much to unpack here. So,
Yeah.
$200,000. He desperately needed it. Somehow, some way, this thing comes through. Do you think? I mean, is he going to continue to buy into breaks? Like, what happens next?
Yeah, I think he is. He's been a loyal customer for the last year and a half, maybe a little bit longer. And we talked about it too when we met in person. He said, "Well, there's a couple weeks, or every now and then he goes in the ghost mode." But that's him just kind of like saying, "Hey, like I've spent too much, or I got to take a step back and just kind of gather my finances." And like that's one of the big things like I try to stress to the community and the card world. It's like this is fun and it can become addicting, but like the card world and the hobby will always be there. Make sure your finances are there. And I would rather have customers that understand that and respect that rather than just the hey, like I'm gonna spend all my money I have right now, put all my barrels in the basket and see what I come away with. And if I don't, then I'm gonna grump at you and throw all these dirty emojis at you and like it was my fault, So he's not like that. I do think he's going to come back and support, and that's kind of up to him too. Like he might just say this is his swan song and sayonara, and I would respect that. So I still think
I
he comes back. Yep.
I think that's really cool. I think first of all, just the fact that sports cards literally changed someone's life. I mean, we hear stories about this all the time, but more and more, especially when it comes to like ultra modern bounties, I think there's like obviously like the public tends to demonize the use of bounties, and well, they use it to sell boxes, and well, that's
Yeah.
why the cost of the product like is what it
Mhm.
is. And very seldom do we hear the side of the story of the person who hits it and
Right.
like
Right.
desperately like needs it, or even not even desperately needs it, but like makes a significant impact in someone's life.
Yeah. I mean, they're not to interrupt you, but just
No,
like
no.
the things that kind of some people had said, like, you just got him a house. Like you just that's a house right there. That's like almost his mortgage, or I don't know the exact lifestyle he lives, but it's just to me it's still mind boggling. But like still gives you the goosebumps, still kind of ruffles your feathers, still makes you smile. And then, when you're holding that card, like, oh my gosh, like just it was almost like, Lord of the Rings, the ring that would change everybody's mindset and call its name. Because the things that people said to me too was pretty wild. And then you start to think about it like, but then you have to put yourself back in reality, and then you gotta do the right thing. You gotta do what's right. So
Yeah, no kidding. And I mean, we've seen
mhm.
countless scenarios where like people don't do the right thing, right? Like there's
Right.
been
Right.
so many
Yep.
videos about, I remember probably 2 3 weeks ago, was it maybe 2 3 weeks ago, someone hit like a shimmer Wemby, like I think it was like out of 8 or something out of Monopoly, and it was a massive card.
Well,
It's probably like 20 25K, and person who pulled it
yeah.
didn't ship. And so I mean, kudos
Hmm.
to you too for having your integrity despite the fact that you're literally holding a two hundred
Yeah.
thousand golden ticket in your hand.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so I did sum this up to, like, David Adams had asked a couple questions too. And I said to them, I said, if you were to ask Stapes, me, on that night, Friday night, if Stapes was going to buy the Nationals and Stapes his own break, my answer is no. I wouldn't have bought that card or that spot. So that I have no ownership to this because I know that I wouldn't have bought it. I'm kind of a baby better. Once in a while, I step out of my realm and take a little shot in the dark. But that night, with my finances and how things were going, I'm not buying them. So I don't own this thing. It's his. And I hope the good makes more light than anything else, really. That I was able to kind of keep it in a safe location for almost a week plus. So it took a while to go through the bounty, but just the fact that we had other people reaching out, other companies, maybe some auction companies that we might be aware of, were
Really?
interested in the car, very interested. Some other random people. I got some voicemails. So yeah, I mean,
What was
just to
the most
dabble in those.
was there any offer that like superseded the bounty offer?
That answer is no.
Okay.
But a lot of people didn't. They forgot about the bounty, so they
Huh.
immediately saw
Really?
it, and they're, yeah, I know. I was shocked. I was like, okay, we could discuss it. Like, I'll reach out to him, but you know that he's guaranteed 200,000, right? They're like, oh, I forgot about that. I don't know if they're trying to pull a fast one on me or
Yeah,
not,
yeah.
but
Maybe it was like a
maybe.
little ruse.
Yeah, right. So it was, to me, it was flattering, but also entertaining. And like, if what, it's always the what if. What if I do hit that huge card, or if I do pull that, like, what happens? Like, where does it go? Do I hide it? Do I, dig a hole in the earth and throw it in a treasure chest and nobody finds it? Or does somebody come into my house? Like, I don't know, like all those little weird things that kind of popped up in my mind, and
I
those are
would
all on the shoulders. So
I wouldn't have been able to sleep if I kept that thing in my house. There's just no way.
I
There's
so
there's absolutely no
it took
way.
me it
Like
took me that night took me a little while to get to bed. I was pumped up, and finally when I went into bed and I gave my wife the good old elbow, and I said, honey, I said, honey, I hit a $200,000 bounty card. And she perks up. She goes, really? And I go, it wasn't for me.
yeah,
She's like,
exactly,
and
exactly.
she's like, why did you tell me? I was like, well, I had to tell you. So that was, I'll never forget that too. But yeah, it was cool. It was really cool.
Talk to me about the discussions between like Dave and Adams. Like, was was the retrieval process in terms of like the swap, was that super easy? Like, how did that take place? Like, what kind of details can you provide on that front?
It was the irony is here because David Adams actually invited me to a customer appreciation night at their retail store um, in Buffalo. So the crazy part of it all is like I'm 10 minutes away from David Adams corporate world. Like and like growing up, like I used to go, they had multiple stores. I'd go to their store and we'd buy cards or we'd buy a couple pieces of memorabilia, some Sabres gear, Bills gear, and like that was David Adams to me, but not knowing the sales side of it and the implications they have in the card world, it's like once I got into the breaking, I was like, wow, like they're huge. Like even like like the guy who created hip parades, he lived a couple streets down from me. I had no idea until I started, talking to them. But like, he doesn't collect obviously because he works for them. So like that you learn all these parameters, like all of these connections and um but to be so close to them I thought was just wild. So
And what's
yeah,
even
David, they were.
wilder, what's even wilder, I'm sorry to interrupt you, is you didn't even
No,
get
you're
the
good, you're good.
you didn't even get the boxes from them,
I know. I
despite
know.
the fact
Yeah.
that it's down the street.
Mhm.
It's crazy.
I know. It is crazy. It is crazy. I shout out to Blowout Cards. That case did come from Blowout. Um, but I had gotten another case from a Niagara Sports Cards up locally. And I had that like right away on release morning. So I'd actually done a jumbo case then with, on TikTok, and he messaged me. He's like, "Tell me it just came from mine. Just tell me it did." And I'm like, "No, his name's Chris." I was like, "Chris, I can't lie to you. I just can't." Unfortunately, it didn't. But just to think that out of 3 jumbo Bowman hobby cases that I had in my house, we pulled that one on that night, and like, it could have been sitting here for a little bit longer too. So,
I mean, the odds of just pulling it in general are just so astronomically low. Like, there are
so
chase
yeah.
cards that still have yet to be unearthed, right? Like, if we talk
Hmm.
about but one of one Volpe update is like still, I mean, I don't know if there's still an
Yeah.
outstanding $150,000 bounty, but there was at some point. The Jordan
Right.
Walker one of one, that also still is somewhere out in the wild. The
The
Tom
Bedard.
Brady, yeah, the
Hmm.
Bedard, the Tom
Hmm.
Brady inscribed gold, that thing is still out in the wild. So, the fact that you guys pulled one, or you pulled one rather, is like already gigantic,
Yeah.
especially given the fact that sometimes these things just don't come out.
Yeah, and you're right. And so to go back to the question of how did David Adams go about it in conversation, I was invited to a customer appreciation night at their store where Ozzie Smith was there. So Ozzie Smith was there to ask questions and sign autographs, and like I brought my daughter Grace, who does a lot of ripping with me too. And her question to him was like, "Well, can you still do a backflip?" And he's like, "I'm 69 years old. Do you think I?" He was really cool. He was really cool. But I felt as I walked in and they treated me like I was a celebrity. I was like the biggest thing on the market. Like everybody said hi to me. Everybody said congratulations. We talked about the bounty. We talked about retrieving it. They didn't pressure any which way. So it was up to the owner. But yeah, they just said, yeah, we'd love to get some content on it. We'd love to do it in David Adams headquarters and really make a good scene about it, which deservingly so. They're paying $200,000 for the card. Why not?
Yeah,
So
exactly. That's
yeah.
awesome. They say what kind of stuff they're going to be working on?
Did they say?
I mean, I don't know.
No.
Okay.
I don't want to put any words in anybody's mouth, but
That's
there
okay.
was
That's, and
talk.
I'm not trying to pigeonhole you. Anyway,
Yeah.
we're just shooting the
No,
shit.
no. Yeah, no, it was they had talked about maybe putting out another bounty that weekend. But then I was like, oh yeah, I think it would have been a great idea to put another one out. Because there's a couple cool chases, not just Dylan Cruz, but there are a couple other guys who are on that higher up on the top 100 prospects on the baseball list too. So I haven't heard anything, but at the same time, I guess they could always do it at any time. And then
That's true.
Then obviously the Phillies guy was Aiden. Oh geez,
Miller.
Aiden's
It's Miller,
Miller.
right?
Miller. I was
Yeah.
gonna, yeah, Miller. Yep, Aiden Miller. So there's a bounty for him. Not for David Adams, but
Is there?
no, no,
Oh,
not for not for David Adams, but it's
no, but
another company.
there is a
Oh
there's a
yeah,
really, I didn't
oh
know
yeah,
that. What is it?
yeah. It's 50 or 70, 50 or 70. I don't know the company's name. I just saw a blip on it like on Instagram scrolling through.
Huh.
But a couple people had talked about it too. So, and that I did hear, quote unquote, there was an expiration on that bounty too. So, and that was another thought of us too. It's like I had heard a couple things of like some people not being able to redeem the bounty, and then as I'm like reading the details of it, it had to grade at a look. It had to look like a grade a 9 or better. And like I said at the beginning, like it looks like a gem at 10. And it's so beautiful. So bless you.
Thank you. Oh,
Very
are
good.
you hold up? There was a that was part of the stipulation. It had to grade a 9 or higher.
Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't know until I actually read the detail. Yeah, it has to look like it's going to grade a 9 or higher.
Really?
So I felt nervous. Like I was like, well, here I'm owning the card, and like I shout out to Big Fred's Breaks on whatnot. He's a buddy of mine, but like I was on his live when I was opening the card, and I was in his break, and it was on the laptop to my side, and like when I had opened it, I was holding it, and I put it down, and I said I don't know what to do with it because I didn't know what to do. Do I top load? Do I one touch? But I only use the pro mold one touches that have the sleeve in there. They give you the
Yeah.
sweet corners,
Yeah.
and nothing moves in those things. And I really do like those. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna put in the one touch, and then not even thinking that people were like messaging me through the chat, and like he was even saying it top load it, and I was like, it didn't even register. Everything just kind of like went in and out, and I still one touched it. So I don't know. I thought it was fine in the one touch. Not too many people brought it up afterwards, but it was, yeah, it's still in the one touch currently. That was taking a picture with in the David Adams stand
Yeah.
card stand. So
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's an okay sign.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it looks like the transaction went through. They posted on the story, so everything's good.
yeah,
Talk to me about okay. So you have this momentous occasion take place.
yep,
Let's. I mean, you mentioned that your daughter Gracie rips with you. I think that's
yeah,
unbelievable.
that is
Talk
fun.
about how
That
that
is,
starts. I mean, it's very seldom do you hear like father daughter. I love that stuff. So,
yeah,
do we
it
want to talk?
is.
Let's talk a little bit about
Sure.
your daughter and ripping with her, and maybe that kind of transitions into like you breaking, you
Mhm.
ripping, like you collecting.
It really started through COVID, and having more time with the kids, being at home, and kind of like trying to entertain, trying to make life normal, at that time was difficult. But what they liked to do was watch a lot of these YouTube streamers open up like mystery like packages. And they were like stupid little trinkets and little toys that you step on as you're walking through the floor, the room in the middle of the night or stuff like that. But they really liked those. And I was like, it's like, like I was like, well, speaking to Grace, I was like, well, Daddy used to open up sports cards, and like we would try to collect these players. And she's like, oh, that's cool. And like, I'm like, oh, there's more than just sports. We have Star Wars and Disney, and all these different types of like Pokemon and all these different genres. And I was like, you want to open some? So we kind of dabbled into it a little bit, and we opened a couple packs. And I got my old cards out from when I was younger, and she's like, oh, this is cool. And I explained we made a set with Poppy. Poppy and I would, put from 1 to 500, and Dunras 92 baseball. We try to capture every card we could, and some of them we didn't. So we left that spot open, and like she was really drawn into that. So I didn't really have TikTok at that time either. I always kind of stayed away from it. I knew it was just a bunch of derrieres, flapping in the back and dances and
Dancing,
you know th-
dancing.
things that probably an older adult doesn't need to really spend their time on.
Yeah.
So I, but then one of my friends had said something about like them seeing sports cards on TikTok. So every year, my godson had a birthday. I would go on eBay and I would buy him, a significant card. At that time, like when he was first born, Jack Eichel was a big rush for the Buffalo Sabres. So I made sure I had like a Jack Eichel rookie card, and I bought that off of eBay. And that was me sort of saying, "Hey, Stapes, let's get back into the card hobby, like in my own brain." And then when somebody said they saw it on TikTok, I was like, "Oh." So the kids went to bed. My wife was asleep, and like it was probably 9:30 at night. And I open up TikTok, and I type in sports cards, and all of a sudden, Cam's case breaks comes up. And I'm just sitting there watching. All I see is a hand model. Like I don't see any face or anything. And I see a guy talking behind the screen, and he's talking about it. So I type in there, what do you got? Like, what is this? And that's where it kind of all started for me again. And he was my first, repurchase back into the hobby, minus my eBay purchases, really,
Yeah.
since I was a kid. So I was super nervous. I was like, well, how am I going to get the card? It's like, and at that time, it was all PayPal, Venmo, Cash App transactions where we just, mutually exchanged money for it.
Yeah.
And then you hoped that it would arrive.
Yeah.
Now everything arrived with him. Unbelievable guy. Like I've had a chance to meet him and talk to him, and like so educated in the card world, and kind of helped me get my feet going after my daughter said, "Hey, Daddy, can we do this?" Because going to hockey practice, so my daughters play ice hockey, instead of listening to the radio or putting on, our favorite song or my favorite song, it was, "Daddy, can we listen and watch a live on the way to practice?" And I'm like,
I love that.
"What's wrong with you? Are you my
Yeah.
kid?" Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so she would know like these, and she was really good. Is very into like the football, like Josh Allen and the 2020, 2021, era there, where she could probably just open up a pack and be able to recite them without having any problems, especially the tricky names too. So eventually we diving down TikTok, you need 1,000 followers. And like I'm like, well, I don't have 1,000 people that really like me in general. So like, how am I gonna get 1,000 followers? So we like I go in all these different rooms and I follow people and hope they follow me back. And like eventually I make a video and I say, all right, we'll put out a score 2017 blaster. If you like and comment and share it out, we'll enter you in for a giveaway. And that helped out. So eventually we get to like 1,000, followers, and we're able to go live. And we start off with the basics. The only thing really I could do at that time was select 2020, 21, like LaMelo Ball, or now the Ant-Man
Anthony
chase.
Edwards. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I started with, a lot of it. And then TikTok was really just football and didn't do much baseball at all. And like I played college baseball, loved the sport to death, always had my heart. But it was like, well, football moves better, moves more. Baseball's like slow, people are stagnant at it. Um, so we kind of just pushed towards football. And yeah, she would come in, she would hop in, and she'd do a pack or two. But then TikTok kind of got weird in terms of like we'd be banned for like a week, and then it would say underage, and it's like my daughter, no face ever showed. We only had one camera, and
Yeah.
like we were hand models per se, but like she would be opening the pack, and the camera would be in front of her face, and then the pack would be behind that. But the camera only saw the pack in the hands and heard the voice. So that's where the sketchy stuff comes in, like people reporting people having the freedom to kind of like interrupt your
Business.
streams and
Yeah.
change your business
Yeah.
aspect,
Yeah.
really. So but yeah, she would when she was awake and we did streams like, middle of the day or the weekends, she would come in and rock it out, and everybody still requests her. And like I would love to tell you she doesn't pull heat, but she does. It's crazy. So
Yeah.
it's but oh, there was this one guy, we were doing an optic 21 optic retail break. It was like, I don't know, 40 optic blasters, and we were having trouble filling it. So not everything fills like a snap on there, but we showed our patience and we had some things going on. And one of the streamers comes in and goes, and my daughter was next to me. She was just talking about what was going on in hockey or something of that. And then the guy goes, "Oh, well, I'll get a spot if Grace takes a blaster and rips one right here in the live." And I'm like, well, that means I have to eat the, 40, $50 that
Yeah.
because I'm secondhand. So I don't
Yeah.
get this right off the bat at the cusp of that $29 price. Like I have
Yeah.
to pay a secondhand fee.
Yeah.
So I'm like, oh man, like I wasn't really thinking of ripping one, but you gonna take? And he was gonna take a bigger team. I said, all right, let's do it. So I said, great, let's get a box. So she turns, she pulls it out, puts it on there, opens it up, takes the first pack, and she pulls a Brian Dawkins optic downtown. And I was like, are we live? Is this real? Like, she did that on the camera, like, uh, just so. But her reaction was like so cool. It was, I'll never forget it. Honestly, it was like the highlight of the breaking world. Like hitting the one of one was so awesome, but I was by myself. Like her pulling the downtown out of a blaster at, I don't know, maybe she was 8 years old at that time. Unheard of,
And
unheard of.
she
So
and the fact that she understands it, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it was really cool. And we did have long conversations. And I think there's one follower who stopped following me. So shout out to that follower. And he stopped following because Grace held on to the cards in a manner that he didn't like.
okay,
And I said to him, I said, I don't know. And I reached out, I tried to be personable. I said, well, what did I do wrong for you to unfollow? Like, was it too high prices? Was I too loud? Was I barking? Was I like all the things? He's like, no, your daughter just holds onto the corners of the cards when she was opening. I was like, but her hands are smaller than other people's. So like she can't hold on to a card the way we do.
yeah,
But I'm literally like, if you could see me like under holding the card, if she were to slip, like my hands would have been right there.
yeah.
Nothing would have happened. So, you got to respect that. And like some people wanted her to rip, and then that guy just didn't. So never really came back too much. But
I mean, there's always gonna be people that we upset and that,
oh yeah,
that just like we're not their cup of tea or
yeah,
but for every one of those people, there's like 10 or 15 people that are so supportive.
oh,
The one
so
thing I
supportive.
will say is like it's upsetting because it's always the minority that's like so overwhelmingly loud. Do you know like and like the ones that aren't
Yes,
supportive?
yes,
It's
right.
like usually the minority, but because they're so overwhelmingly loud, it feels a lot bigger, versus like
It
the
does.
people the people who like fuck with you, they fuck with
Yeah,
you, but they don't go out
right,
of their way to say it a lot of the times. You know what I mean?
right,
And
right,
and I,
right.
I think like that's one thing that we have to consistently remind ourselves in whatever business model we have or kind of throughout life is like unfortunately the people who are just like there to either tear it down or just really don't respect us or what we do, whatever the
Yeah.
case may be, unfortunately they go out of their way to like express that and that it's a loud expression versus the people
Mhm.
who really do like stick by us and support. A lot of times that support is silent. It's just kind of like me watching your stuff every day. Like I know that one of the first times that you and I talked, like you told me that like you're like, oh, I was like, you're one of the first people I followed on TikTok. And I'm like, I would have had no idea. Right. Like
Yeah,
and
right.
and I've had these conversations with like a bunch of people where they're like, oh my God, like I watch your stuff every single day. And like that person might not interact, but like they take the time every single day.
Right. Yep,
And so
yep.
it's just important to kind of like remember that just because these people are overwhelmingly loud and perhaps in the negative sense, like that doesn't necessarily mean that we don't have like tons of supporters. Those supporters just they don't always feel the need to remind us. So I think that
Yeah.
if anyone's gonna take something from here today, like if you support people, just tell them, just give them that extra. You never know who's gonna need it and what they're going through. So
Oh,
show
that's
some
true.
love and
Yeah.
give people their flowers while they're still here, man.
Yeah, no, and shout out to all the supporters that do come into Stapes, and like they've made an effort because they noticed like the video had only got like 8,000 views on TikTok of me actually pulling the card, and they heard some rufflings in the feathers of how things were going to go down, and like everything worked out amazing. Like I can't, I'm proud of everything, and I would do it again in a heartbeat when I have that chance again. But like they were there to say, hey, Staves, that, and they kind of like made my day in terms of how they're like, I was in the break. That was so awesome. Like, I can't believe I was there. Like, I had a spot in it. And just to have the opportunity to watch it and say I was in it, like, means the world to them. And that, like, meant the world to me. So, yeah,
I love
shout out
that.
to those guys.
I
Yeah,
love
love
that.
it.
It's yeah, it's just it's interesting that like the things that kind of like make more of an impact on us
Yeah,
versus,
right.
like, and I think that if we can lean on those like positive voices, even if they aren't
Hmm.
always so loud, like I think those are the ones that mean the most. Like someone, and it's like a nothing comment, like not, it's not a nothing comment at all, but like someone wrote on one of my videos, I think it was yesterday, I posted a video about like Ace Hardware selling like optic blasters. And the vast majority of people were just like, oh, overpriced retail, junk wax era,
I
just
know.
like tons of stuff, right?
Yep, yep.
And one person said, I just called my local Ace Hardware. It's like 5 minutes from my house, and they're going to order me optic blasters. Thank you so much. I finally get product. And
Right.
like, it's like such a small comment, but I know that if this person went out of their way to type this
Hmm.
on my video, then like they might have just gotten the opportunity to open product for the first time after looking at like 7 or 8 different Walmarts or Target, or fighting
Yeah.
with bots online, and this way, like, it's like down the street from their goddamn house. And I don't know what they're gonna pull. Maybe something amazing, maybe nothing. But
Right, right.
I mean, they get the opportunity to now, right? So yeah, just like the little things that if we can find a way to continue to gravitate towards those, I think we can feel a little bit more at peace. I think that where I'm going with that.
Yeah, and like that's yeah. I mean, 100%, 100%. And at being a card counselor, being behind the hands or the person, like you have to deflect a lot of those comments, and it's hard to read in a chat, whether it's Fanatics Live or TikTok or whatnot, or any like it's hard to read sarcasm. It's hard to read, the derivative of their comment. So sometimes, like during a live too, like I'll read it and I'm like, damn, he's just taking digs on me. And he wasn't. The person wasn't. Like it was just a general comment. And I was like, and you just gotta like quickly do all that. So yeah, it's the positives are much needed, but like that's us in general. That's life, and that's people. Like they always want to voice out something that they don't have or they don't have an opportunity at. And it's if you really want to get in breaks and you really want to be a breaker, like you can do it. Like anybody can.
Yeah.
You just gotta pursue it. You gotta put forth the effort, and you know,
I love it. Talk to
yeah,
me about what's next. What's next for Stapes Breaks? Like, do you guys
yeah.
are you still doing football? Do you mainly do baseball? What's going on?
Oh, we've dabbled into it all, and I kind of like that. Like we did Disney Kakawao like last year. We did, football. We've done baseball. The last 6 months have been baseball. Like I've had a blast with it. Like that. There's a change of the helm, like in the baseball, like superstars with all these
Yeah.
these new guys coming in and these farm systems that are just stacked out of their mind,
Yeah.
and it's just like,
Baltimore changed it for a lot of, like,
yeah, oh
and then
yeah,
Ellie coming and like actually being
yep,
like he was an animal when he first came. People expected a bit of a drop off, and like he's having an even better start to the year this year.
yep.
Otani, everyone was thinking like post surgery.
Yep. Yeah.
Guy's leading
Oh
the
yeah.
league in home runs and batting average is like unbelievable after signing the biggest contract in MLB history. Like, it's kind of crazy that, a lot of
Yeah.
I would say like the two biggest fall offs are probably like Julio and Corbin in terms of like
Yeah. Yeah.
what
Good
their
point.
expectations were, the marketing that went behind them, the collectability of those guys, and then
Yeah.
kind of like
Mhm.
how they've proceeded the following years. It's like the sophomore year, but I mean, both are still great players. I think they're gonna snap out of it. But it's just been crazy to see like a lot of these hype players come in and actually continue to like
Yeah.
deliver, man. Like,
I know.
it's
I know.
crazy. And even, if we go the basketball route, like Wemby was crazy hyped and he delivered.
Yeah.
Like
He
it's
did.
we're in a crazy time right now where
Super exciting. Yeah.
I CJ
It's
Stroud was
hot.
crazy hype and he delivered.
Yeah.
Like, it's
Uh,
I don't know. It's wild.
Yeah. They stole my wide receiver, but let's not go there. Um, I'm okay with that, by the way, for the record. If you get pushed off a team for $31 million that they're gonna eat, something's wrong.
Yeah.
Something's wrong. So
Yeah. Agreed.
but you're right, dude. Like it's so crazy. I would love to say like we're gonna be only doing football, we're only gonna do baseball, but like if you walk up into my card vault that I have in between my stairs there, like I've still got football. I've got plenty of baseball. I just bought I bought some megas and blasters just to have some fun with. Maybe somebody will hit a Wemby. I like those chases. We did a full case of Upper Deck Series 2 for the Connor Bedard. Like those things are fun. Like I do like to dabble around, but honestly, I've had so much fun with baseball. I don't see baseball will still be there, but I do have a break now. It's a football break, so I do like the downtown chase because of the memories that I've kind of incurred with my daughter and just even some hits that I've pulled. So
I love that.
yeah.
I want to give you the floor to plug absolutely anything right now. Go for it, bro.
Well, I've never been able to do that. You know, we're at Stapes. Like Stapes is everything really. Like I do so much. Like I bust my ass in this hobby, but like I do it for the right reasons. Like it's got me through some weird, wicked times in my own life, and it's been an out. And the community supports. Like in general, they're always positive, always bring me back. Like there's a couple times where I could have said, "All right, I'm done." Like even after hitting that one of one, it's like, wow, does it get any better? But in my mind, I want that challenge. Like, let's do it again. Let's try to do it again. Let's try to get there. And I don't want to be huge. I just want to come in. I want people to support the hobby and respect it. So I think that's what Stapes is in general. Being husband, dad, teacher, breaker, sorter, shipper, all those different adjectives. I have to coach a soccer game later. Like all of those fun things. Like coming to here and still doing this is shows my love and passion, for the hobby, and it's fun to make people happy, and who knows, maybe you'll be the next life-changing card that I pull for.
I love that.
How was that?
I love that. I love that. Team,
Okay.
if you haven't figured it out yet, Stapes_breaks on
Mhm.
TikTok, on
Sorry. Yeah.
Instagram. Where else?
I'm on everything social media wise.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's Instagram. TikTok is our main one. I do have Whatnot. I'm active in Fanatics Live. Fanatics Live said no to me to break recently when I inquired David Adams to reach out. But broken hearts can always be mended together, maybe someday in the future. So
That's exactly it. Well, hopefully with some extra support, and especially after sharing your story and people, finding out about just how great of a person you are in general, brother. So
mhm.
I appreciate you jumping on
Oh,
here.
thanks.
Team,
Appreciate you.
like I said, please go follow Stapes_breaks. The good people in this hobby. Guy just pulled an absolute monster for another good person. Life-changing money in sports cards. Craziness. I hope you
Sweet.
enjoyed this week's episode of Cardboard Coach featuring none other than Stapes Breaks. Team, thank you so much and take care.